Houston, say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem. We've had a main B plus undervolt. Roger, main B undervolt. Okay, stand by at 13, we're looking.
We are back with one more round of awesome favorite images, and we have Martine Graney's awesome picture from Soul 986. Martine, please tell us, what are we looking at?
Oh, this is one of a collection of heads that I seem to be collecting lately. It looks like a statue head to me, but rather odd expression on it. When I first saw it, I thought it looked very much like a sort of 15th, 16th century statue head, a bust, you know. Has a strange expression on its face. Not quite sure if it's surprised, alarmed or whatever, but very strange to have an expression like that on the face of a statue. Very peculiar sort of headdress. Certainly, I've seen it before actually on several others. There's some colour coming through on that as well. Although you know, as you know, I never ever add any colours to any of these images. Very odd one, that one. Nothing much more to say about it. Some people come up with very peculiar ideas for it, but it's one of those that I think it speaks for itself. It certainly looks 15th, 16th century to me.
I know you do have some almost similar images also. Do you want to take a look at those while we are at the faces here?
Yeah, absolutely.
We have another one here. Let me see if I can see what it says here. MSL 904.
Yes,
something like that. Yes.
Well, no, it's the pair. There's a pair I put side by side to compare.
Yeah.
One of them we've talked about before, and it looks like the head of a Phrygian statue. It's the one lying on its side, and you can actually see the hair and some hair on its chin. Have you got it there? Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. It's, you know, when I look at it, it reminds me of the ancient Greeks, Sumerians, whatever, you know, going back even more than that, 5,000 years. This is the male head. I won't dwell on it because we've discussed this one before, but there's this sort of ornate Stefan, they call them, that went through the hair by way of a decoration. But then if I move to this other one that was actually discovered by Rob Montgomery, and he kindly allowed me to enhance it, I was just overjoyed because I could see straight away that there was going to be a lot of detail on this female bust. Seems to have quite a young face. What fascinated me was this incredible headdress. And straight away I thought of the female Sumerian headdresses that they used to wear, which was so ornate and so beautiful. She has a very sad expression on her face, small features, her eyes are closed, which is unusual, but very beautiful. I'm very impressed with that one, I must say. Anyway, we'll move on to the next.
Yes, you have one more fourth image here.
Which is the one that looks like a gargoyle to me. It's quite comical. I can't quite work out whether it's pulling a face like a duck face, or whether whether it's sticking its tongue out, rather like we see on some of our gargoyles. You know, gargoyles that you have around cathedrals and old stately homes, and supposedly to ward off evil presences. I think gargoyles, just to say a little bit about them, I mean, they had no more function really than to actually just to get rid of water that was gathering on the roofs of these buildings, and they were outlets, but decorated and whatever. But I mean, some of them are quite monstrous, actually, and some of them are obvious sort of chimeras with heads of humans and bodies of creatures and animals. They certainly are scary, very many of them. I saw some on the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, which I thought were quite terrifying. It seemed rather odd to have something like that on, on a religious building. But, so, yeah, this particular one, I don't know if it was actually created, to that effect. I don't think it has any functional purpose. But the one thing I did spot when I zoomed in on it was this strange little archway, which is just below the left-hand, or its left-hand jawline. There's like an archway with retaining stones around it.
Yeah.
I would imagine if the rock, and Nev will correct me on this because he's far better at scaling things, but I estimated it to be probably about 1.5 feet in diameter. So that little entrance or opening, which is down at the bottom, would probably only be about 4 inches from left to right. It's a comical one, and it was quite fun to work with. There is this sort of gash down the side of it, which I think is due to a piece of rock which has broken away from the side of the face, leaving that mark running down diagonally.
Could be it.
Yeah.
I actually think that line is part of it. Actually, if you turn it round, if you spin it round 180 degrees, the bit that you say is a archway is actually could be an eye, and like an eye with decoration on the side. If you spin it round, I've just spun it round there, and hold on, and it actually looks like it's an eye. Hold on, I'll do a screenshot and I'll send it to Skype. But it actually looks like it's fallen over. It's actually facing. It's on the ground with the bit that you say is an arch, like a little doorway or something. It looks as if that's the eye and the nose, and that bit's on the ground. And
Really?
yeah.
What you mean, apart from the eyes at the top that we see, which look closed, 2 eyes that look closed above the nose?
I don't think they're eyes myself. Well, I'll send this on Skype.
Okay.
Oh, it wants to work. Is it working? Yeah. Yeah. I've spun it round. You can see I put the eye looks as if it's taking a while to come through, like. Yeah, it should be there now.
That face reminds me a bit of the statues on Easter Island. It has kind of that proud pout or duck face, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And its eyes are closed as well, and it's looking very, even though it's comical, it's looking haughty and proud. And the small arch at the bottom, which, if that's what it is, it's another one of those evidences that says to me there are tiny beings on Mars, which is something I avoid like the plague.
Most men do.
Well, I understand why people are very quick to see tiny ones everywhere. Between pareidolia and wishful thinking, until we see something just like absolutely ironclad clear, I'm reserving judgment on that, and I'll catch heat for that. But no matter. But you see an archway there with obviously the keystones in place, and they're shaped exactly as you would shape them to make a sustainable archway, unless that's of course carved. And if it's only 4 inches across, well, it's either very tiny people or this was a house for a cat or something. I don't know.
The interesting thing is, David, did you know that it was only the Romans? I mean, the Romans tended to copy much of the Greek civilization with their cultures and with their art styles and everything, but it was only the Romans that created the Roman arch, you know, with the retaining stones over the top. The Greeks never ever did it. So that was
peculiar. Yeah, there's a certain amount of engineering and mathematical ability that has to enter into that.
Yeah.
And, which the Greeks certainly had in some regard, but they weren't the engineers that the Romans were.
No,
the Romans were remarkable engineers.
Yeah, but, anyway, it's a curious one.
These are great images, and I would like to add something to each of them. I am looking at the first image here, and what I would add to the first one is, I love it. Next picture, I love it. Third picture, I love it. Picture number 4, I love it. This is great work, Martina. Please continue that way from now on. Thank you for sharing those wonderful pictures with us.
And what I love about it, you don't overdo it. You're tasteful about your working with the pictures.
Try not to.
Some people are very heavy-handed, and it looks almost cartoonish when they get done. But you manage to bring out the details without hiding the details.
I prefer, I know Nev likes working with black and white, but I like working with the colour because I like to see the mid-tones, whereas with the black and white images, some of these that come from NASA is just too high contrast, so we're losing a lot of the mid-tones. So, you know, sometimes I think, oh, that might look nice if it's monochrome, work on it that way, but then I always go back to the original, even though it's got this awful brown tint on it, but very often we can lift it off. We can actually get through that.
You are doing a great job on this one, that's for sure. I want to jump on to the next.